Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Welcome to another episode of the Shiny Review. Today we have two new cards to talk about. A Produce SSR for Mikoto and Produce SR for Chiyoko. Keep in mind, of course, that Mikoto is permanent. You will be able to pull for her in the future, and she will be added to reroll options once the banner is over. Also, as a note, the She's initial SSRs are available for True End training for those who haven't done that yet. So if you want to get one guaranteed She's card, you got a new opportunity. Let's start off with Mikoto. Sticking to the script, Mikoto 2 arrives to keep the ball rolling for She's as they can now look forward to their SSR3 set sooner rather than later. That being said, I personally feel very mixed on the mechanical design of this Mikoto compared to Mikoto 1. Mikoto 2 is an AoE unit that synergizes with Illuminate and Antika equally, being an extremely rare case of a gacha card with AoE appeals. She also lacks any synergy with Nichika 2 in terms of her appeals or her passives outside of one particular thing, which is very jarring. Now, much like Mikoto 1, Mikoto 2 can increase the strength of Nichika appeals, but she can only do so with a link appeal. This means that by default, one of Nichika's appeals will have to not benefit from this effect, and overall slows the team down and makes the She's gimmick seem a little worse than it was with Mikoto 1. To say it simply, I don't understand why Mikoto 2 is the way she is, unless they try to justify her design with the eventual Nichika 3. Her roles are Attack All, she's a dual stat unit, and she buffs Nichika. I would say that there's a low recommendation here. She is a permanent, so you may find her in the future, but I would not say that she is an absolutely necessary piece right now. Mikoto's initial skill is a Vocal Dance 1.0 appeal that attacks all judges, and the Link appeal increases Nichika's appeals by 1.0 for 4 turns. Her 3-star skill is a Vocal Dance 2.0 to all judges, that again increases Nichika's appeals by 1.0 for 4 turns. This means that together it adds an additional 2.0 to all of her multipliers, which is very useful. Mikoto's 1-star passive is a Vocal Dance 30% up that requires your maximum mental to be 2500 or higher. This has a 15% chance to activate twice. Her 2-star passive is a Vocal Dance 70% up that requires your maximum mental to be 2500 or more, and your mental, currently, to be 49% or less. This has a 30% chance to activate twice. This also unlocks a Vocal Dance plus 50 uncap. At 3 stars, she has 2 passives. The first is a Vocal Dance 60% up as long as you have 1 or 2 Illumination Stars members, no more than 2, no less than 1, 15% chance to activate twice. The secondary passive is a Vocal Dance 60% up that requires 1 or 2 Antika members. This has a 15% chance to activate twice. Her 4-star uncap is a Vocal Dance plus 150, and her memory appeal when maxed out is a Vocal Dance 1.0 that links into a Dance 1.5 appeal. For the support recommendations, Illuminate feel like the best engine to consider outside of Wanderlust and Onsen Kiriko. With either the Hiyori or Meguru 4-star appeal, you open up Roof Mono's gold passive, and can still further stack this with other killer passives. No Mei this time just because it doesn't quite fit, and because She's aren't that good at active buffs just yet, that type of card doesn't really help. Now, Vocal and Dance together have a killer lineup of supports that you can consider, that all serve different purposes. Remember to consider supports that you can potentially pair with She's in Grad for now, and that Mikoto prefers Antika and Illuminate for the sake of her passives. Now, on to the team recommendations. Trying to make the most of Mikoto as a center, you can attempt a team that focuses on the Vocal Dance mixed aspect with cards like Mono 6, Kogane 6, and Mamimi 6 alongside Nichika 1. You can buff your AoE Mikoto appeals with Nichika, which also allows you to continue AoE pressure with Mono, or you can potentially drop in Not Equal Yuika over Kogane for some further impact as well as more of a revenge-style gameplay, since you'll have strong passives like Wanderlust Mamimi and Onsen Kiriko to fuel that Yuika. Now, another option to consider is running Mikoto 2 off-stat, and focus purely on drawing both appeals by turn 3 to buff Nichika's memory appeal on turn 4 for a visual 8.0 memory appeal, assuming that Nichika can appeal on the first turn. So if you go Nichika, Mikoto, Mikoto, memory appeal, then that becomes that visual 8.0. And as long as all of your passives activate, that's arguably one of the strongest, if not the strongest memory appeal in the game. Now, this runs into a fairly big consistency issue, so it's not a build I'd personally recommend strongly if constant resets aren't really your thing. Now, if you want some more recommendations for visual cards, I recommend checking out the Nichika 2 review. as well as consider maybe some new cards like the visual Chiyuki from Kaho 6. So overall as a center, Mikoto earns anywhere from a C+ to a B-. This memory appeal, even if you assume its fullest potential, is going to come off as underwhelming unless you can really balance your stats at a high enough level to make it count. While it's certainly no slouch, the ideal odds of making this memory appeal work compared to improving your standard AoE appeals or backup AoE from other members of your team can really deflate the value of this center a fair bit. If you aren't trying to buffer with Nichika, then this memory appeal isn't worth it at all, and I wouldn't really bother with it. Now as a unit, she gets a B+. Mikoto feels incredibly average, and in some cases worse than that. The fact that her ability to buff Nichika is locked to a link appeal makes her a tiny bit worse than Mikoto 1, and her only synergy with Nichika 2 is to buff her appeals by 2.0 and let Nichika do all the heavy lifting, diminishing most value the card itself has to bank on her appeal buffs rather than her stats. While her passives aren't bad by any means in a vacuum, Mikoto 2 feels very specifically rough for a 2021 unit. Next up we have Chiyoko. Our latest Fest event PSR is Chiyoko, who, much like other PSRs before her, is a weaker version of one of her gacha counterparts. She mainly acts like many of the original SR Hokuda supports, buffing one stat and raising your attention very slightly, which can be fairly appealing for beginner accounts. That being said, almost every PSR Chiyoko does this better, so it's not a huge win for our newest owner of glasses. As per usual, the biggest merit this Chiyoko has is she'll be 3,000 more feather jewels for you once you true ender the first time, and it's a costume to unlock as well. She's filler for filler, as alluded to earlier, with cards like her initial gacha PSR providing similar, if not better, merits than this card. I think the outfit combo is great this time, but as a card, she's nothing all that special. Her roles are buffer and attention up, and you might as well farm for Chiyoko while she's here. Chiyoko's initial skill is a visual 2.0 appeal that raises your visual by 20% for 3 turns and your attention by 30% for 3 turns. This links into a visual 3.0 appeal. The max version of this skill is a vocal 2.5 that raises your vocal by 30% for 3 turns and your attention by 50% for 3 turns. This links into a vocal 3.0 appeal. Her 1-star passive is a visual 12% up that requires your mental to be 75% or higher. This has a 40% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a vocal 24% up that requires the turn count to be 3 or earlier. This also has a 40% chance to activate once. Her 3-star uncap is a vocal plus 50, and her memory appeal when maxed out is a vocal 1.5 appeal that links into a visual 3.0 appeal. For the support recommendations, Vocal Hokuda definitely makes the most sense as a build, and thankfully their support setup is pretty much done forever until the next big power creep. Amana acts as probably one of your better visual token choices, but Toru is a good alternative. Speaking of, Visual and Vocal Hokuda still have other options that can help Chiyoko if you decide to take a mixed route or decide that Visual is more your speed. So cards like Chiyuki offer reasonable passives and masteries, Choco Jelly Natsuha and Space Jury are solid additions as well. You can opt to use New Year's Rinzai, Sick Kaho for more of a vocal build, as goes with Toru. So, as a center, Chiyoko earns a C to a B-. Chiyoko's memory appeal is fine, the link appeal is reasonable. I don't have much else to say. It exists and it isn't that strong, but is serviceable if you're doing a proper dual stat build. Otherwise, it's safe to ignore and focus on her other goals. As a unit, she gets a C. So-so appeals, the same passive we've seen for a while, nothing particularly remarkable about this Chiyoko outside of the nice costume set for your other Chiyoko cards. Most of the Chiyoko SRs have a bit more merit than this Chiyoko for the appeals for similar but better effects. So overall, not a super enticing card, but again, it's nice to have the outfit for your other Chiyokos. And that will do it for the video today. Thank you so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the thumbs up and share it around to all your friends to let them know what we're doing here. Next time we'll be talking about whatever banner comes next, so let's look forward to it together. I've been Cho, thanks for watching, have a wonderful rest of your day.